Hey, Friday morning here on the Morning Brew. Pour another cup and join us. We like to talk to people in our community that really make a difference, and this gentleman is certainly in that category. Chris Baca is here. Chris is CEO and president of YDI and has had the gig for 40 years.
That is amazing.
That's correct.
Chris, good to see you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Aaron. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. Thank God it's Friday.
YDI, Youth Development Incorporated.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about the work.
The work is very comprehensive, Larry and Aaron. You know, we started our work 42 years ago, actually more than 42 years ago, but since 1942, we've been, for the last 42 years, we've been doing the kind of work that it needs to be done with working with at-risk youth and families. On a yearly basis, we see over 17,000 kids and their families, so you multiply that over the last 40 years and you can see we've probably served in the hundreds of thousands of kids and their families, all the way from early childhood education, which is baby 6 weeks of age till 2 years of age. Most people don't realize that the brain development, early brain development is amazing. And if we don't start teaching kids that young, you know, we really lose out on the formative years of a young person's life. So we have programs actually start with baby 6 weeks of age. Actually, we have prenatal programs, and folks don't know that we do this kind of work. We actually have 33 centers in the metro area, but also in northern New Mexico, Taos and Rio Arriba counties. So these 33 centers are in dispersed areas throughout our city and our state, you know, and it's a really important part of the work that we do. We do Head Start, and there's 3 to 5 year olds, you know, those are the, again, continuing this emphasis on early brain development.
Right.
We get our kids ready to get, to go to school. Education is the key, we all know, to successful lives. And so we start there and we go all the way to the early adulthood. We have programs that deal with kids that have been in foster care their whole life. They've never been adopted. So at age 18, they've each reached the age of majority. They're no longer wards of the state, and here you are. You know, where do they go from there? We work with them in a transitional living program that helps them be on their own. You know, they get their own apartments, finish their school, get a job. All of that is very important work, and a lot of folks don't realize that some kids go unadopted. And we work with kids at that end of the spectrum too. And all the stuff in between, all ages. We believe that all of us have needs at different points in times in our lives, and we have to be there to respond to them.
So is YDA specific to foster children then?
No, it's the whole gamut. We do after-school programming, as an example. We do actually some of the work you do here with young people with teaching film and
intern kind of work.
Well, yeah, this kind of work. We do theater. We actually up the street a little bit on 4th Street. We have an outreach program. We have family therapy. We do behavioral health. We have a partner now where we do primary health. That's Presbyterian Medical Services, where there are partners in delivering primary health care to families. We're looking at most of the families that are maybe not in the best economic situation, and we're looking at the most at-risk communities in our state. We believe that unless we invest early and often, that becomes a significant factor in our state's ability to be a great state.
Tell us about this program you have called Yes Housing.
Yes Housing. We started that actually in 1990. One of the things that was very consistent in our work with families is that they were in living situations that were not great. Substandard housing, very dangerous neighborhoods, and we said we have to do something about providing better housing. And we started out not knowing a darn thing about building a house, and we started small, but right now we have over 1,500 units of housing that we've actually developed. I'm very excited. We're doing a downtown development. It's on 2nd and Silver. It's called Casitas Coloradas. We have 72 units, I believe. We'll bring in 72 families into the downtown area. You know, we want to participate in the revitalization of downtown, working with the mayor and the city council. You know, they're also developing a grocery store in the downtown area.
Yes.
We'll be directly across the street from that.
Oh, that's nice.
But it's providing some what we call something very concrete for our families.
And how are those families chosen?
They are basically they have to meet an income criteria. It's kind of a mixed housing project,
Right.
and it's right by the theater. You'll see some of the development down there that's already happening, and so we're taking some of the families that are in maybe not the best of situations, moving them into these better houses. These are our LEED standards, which means they're high efficiency, energy efficient. Facilities. Will have a clubhouse there so the kids and the parents can work on their education and on their skills. So
You are a CEO in every sense of the word because as you described all the programs that YDI is involved in, you've got a lot of projects happening simultaneously.
yeah. I do.
You're watching a lot of things go on. The YDI is bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah, it's much bigger. We have on the YDI side about 600 full-time staff.
Wow.
You know, we balloon up to, like my weight, up to up to 1,000 during the summer when we bring in a lot of kids to work. We're the workforce provider for the central New Mexico region, so people don't realize that we do a lot of school to career and career readiness programming for the community as well. As I mentioned earlier, we do the gamut. People often ask me, well, why do you do all these things? And it's because we have to. When we started in 1971, there was nothing, no programs, and so we'd have a kid show up at our door that needed a lot of services, and it would broke our hearts to say, well, we don't have that, we don't offer that. So little by little, over this 4 decades, we've added a program here, a program there, and it's a huge endeavor, but I think that's something that's ultimately very necessary for the success of our kids and our families in our state.
And is YDI, it's native to the whole state?
Yes.
Only Albuquerque?
Yeah, we actually have offices in Espanola, Taos, Rio Rancho, Los Lunas, and lots of places here in Albuquerque. With Yes Housing, we actually hit almost all the 4 corners. We're in Farmington, Las Cruces, Deming, Clovis, Alamogordo, Roswell. We're doing a project in Los Alamos, and we're going to start one in Gallup. So we're statewide now, yeah. And actually, because we've had success here, we also have 3 projects in Arizona and Phoenix, and also we did one not long ago in El Paso. These are housing projects.
Right.
Now, Chris, you've been running YDI for 40 years. You've been with them 40 years. The problems of youth, you've seen probably an evolution over that time. Where are we now? What's the big problem that you're seeing the most of that you're having to deal with?
Well, I think we're all aware of the largest problem that our community is facing is quality education. We lose way too many of our kids, somewhere in the neighborhood of 33%. We think that number is actually higher because some kids drop out way before high school where you start tracking. So that's a huge problem. We cannot attract industry into this community if we don't have a workforce that's prepared to take on the challenge of a world economy. We now compete with China and India and Brazil. The numbers alone are will crush us unless we actually do something. India and China have over 1 billion in population. I think India graduates more PhDs per year than we do total college graduates. So how are we going to compete with that?
Yes.
Brazil, 700 million in population. So the numbers in terms of work against us. So if we don't attempt to educate each and every child we have, we're behind the 8 ball. And I think we're sensing that now in this whole world economic situation that we're experiencing.
And do you find schools like that are in those areas, the target areas, that do you target schools that kind of have those issues, or how do you find them, or do they find you?
Yeah, we basically do what we call geomapping. It's pretty scientific anymore. you have all the risk factors, not only, for instance, single female heads of households, kids under a certain age, poverty levels, risk factors, dropout rates, all those things. And we look at that and say, well, here's an area that absolutely needs our services. So those are the areas we go into. And those are the most difficult areas to work in because they usually lack a lot of resources. The institutions in those communities are under a lot of duress. They need a lot of help.
YDI is doing a Casablanca event, World Warehouse this weekend on Saturday, and helps the scholarships. We're out of time, but Chris, come back and see us again.
Thank you so much.
Support the work, okay?
It's been a great pleasure. The coffee's worth it, by the way.
Yeah, it is. Hey, we're not the Morning Brew for nothing.
Look at that. Absolute good coffee.
Hey, thanks, Chris, for being here.
Thank you.
Chris Baca, CEO and President of YDI Incorporated. Good work. Back in a moment, we'll meet the folks behind Lieber's Luggage in just a second here on the Morning Brew.